Imagine you're told that your shadow is so impure that it can't fall on another human being, that your presence in a temple would defile gods, that you can't draw water from the same well as your neighbors, not because of anything that you have done, but because of the family that you were born into, because of what your surname is. This was the reality for millions of Indians for over 2000 years, until one day in 1950 our constitution tried to end it all. I'm Ayan, and today we are diving into Article 17, the provision that made untouchability a crime. And trust me, this story has heroes, villains, and a fight that's still not over. Before we get into Article 17, you need to understand what we are dealing with here. Picture this, that you're born into a community that society calls untouchable. Your ancestors cleaned human waste by their hands, and your grandparents maybe did the same. And guess what? That's what expected to be your job too. Not because you're uneducated, but because that's your place in society. You can't enter the village temple, and when you walk down the street, upper caste people move away like you're contagious. The tea shop has a separate chipped cup just for people like you. You can't draw water from the same well because you might pollute it. And here's the worst part of all of this is considered normal, even holy. Ancient texts like the Manusmriti literally prescribed punishments if lower caste people tried to educate themselves or even speak up. We are talking about some very barbaric stuff. Cutting tongues, pouring molten lead into ears. I am not exaggerating here. This is what is actually written. So, this wasn't just prejudice, this was a system, a hierarchy carved into stone, enforced through violence, and justified by the same people who were given the job to protect the religion. And this happened for centuries. And by the time that India was approaching her independence in 1940s, leaders faced a deep and dark question. How do you build a democracy when millions of your citizens are treated as less than human? Now here is where our hero enters, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He was born into an untouchable Mahar community in 1891. Ambedkar knew this discrimination firsthand. In school, he wasn't allowed to touch the water jug. A peon had to pour water into his mouth or his hand for him to drink, and that also from a height because even his touch would pollute the vessel. But Ambedkar was brilliant. Against all odds, he learned degrees from the Columbia University, the London School of Economics, and he came back to India with a mission: annihilate the caste system completely. When India's Constituent Assembly met to draft our constitution, Dr. Ambedkar was made the chairman of the drafting committee. And he had one non negotiable demand, that untouchability must be abolished completely. No exceptions, no gradual reforms, abolished. And the result of that was Article 17. Let me read you the entire provision. It's short but very powerful. Untouchability is abolished and its practice in any form is forbidden. The enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. Now, notice what this does. It doesn't say discouraged. It doesn't say phase it out gradually. It says abolished, as in gone, finished, over. In any form means no loopholes at all. You can't say, oh, but this is my religious belief. You can't say, this is our tradition. Article 17 says, I don't care. It's a crime now. You have to treat a human being like a human being, not below you or above you. And just think about that. India had just got independence after 200 years of British rule. And the first thing that we did in our constitution is criminalize a practice that's been a part of our culture for millennia. That takes a lot of guts. And here's the legal brilliance. Article 17 doesn't just make untouchability illegal, it makes enforcing any disability based on untouchability a criminal offense. So if you're a temple priest who bars Dalits from entry, you're committing a crime. If you're a landlord who refuses to rent to someone because of their caste, you're committing a crime. If your tea shop doesn't allow or has separate cups for different castes, that is a crime. The Constitution basically said we are not asking the society to change nicely because this is something that has to be forced. But here's the thing about constitutional provisions, they need actual laws to back them up. You can't just arrest someone for violating Article 17. You need specific offenses, specific punishments. So the Parliament got to work on it. So first came the Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955. This spelled out exactly what untouchability means legally. Denying someone access to a shop, restaurant, or hotel, 6 months in jail. Refusing someone admission to a hospital or a school or a college, it's a crime. Preventing someone from using a public well or any kind of other water resource is a criminal offense. And stopping someone from entering a place of worship, you're going to jail. Pretty clear, right? But then lawmakers realized something even darker. Untouchability isn't just about access to wells and temples. It's about violence, humiliation, and systematic oppression. So, in 1989, the Parliament passed the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, and this is the heavy-duty version of the previous one. This law covers horrific stuff like parading someone naked through the streets, forcing them to eat inedible substances, sexual assault based on caste, and the punishments are also very serious. We are talking about years in prison and sometimes even life imprisonment. The Act also set up special courts to try these cases quickly because regular courts were taking forever. And here's a recent one, the Manual Scavenging Act of 2013. Because, yes, in the 21st century, we still have people cleaning human feces with their bare hands. The law banned it, criminalized employing manual scavengers, and promised rehabilitation on paper at least. Now you'd think with all these laws, untouchability would be history by now, right? But you'll be wrong. Let me tell you about a case that shook the entire system. The state of Karnataka versus Appa Balu Ingle in 1993. Supreme Court had to answer what exactly counts as untouchability. Is it only about physical touch or temple entry, or is it broader? The Supreme Court said it's broader, way broader. Untouchability includes any practice that treats scheduled castes as inferior or imposes disabilities on them. Economic, social, educational, any kind of disability. If it's caste-based discrimination against the SCs, it falls under Article 17. And that was huge. Then there is Safai Karamchari Andolan versus the Union of India 2014. Activists dragged the government to court, saying that you ban manual scavenging, but it's still happening everywhere. You have to do something. And the Supreme Court agreed. They called manual scavenging a direct violation of Article 17 and human dignity. They ordered the government to identify every manual scavenger and rehabilitate them. But here's where it gets messy. In 2018, there was a case called Subhash Kashinath Mahajan. The Supreme Court said the police can't automatically arrest someone accused under the SC/ST Act. They need to investigate first. Sounds reasonable, right? due process, and all that. Except within months, reported atrocity cases dropped by 50%. You know why? Because victims knew that getting justice was now even harder than before. There was a massive backlash. Dalit groups protested across India, and the parliament had to step in and amend the law to restore original provisions. This case showed something important. Even well meaning legal safeguards can become weapons against the oppressed. Then there is the recent case of Keshav Mahato versus State of Bihar. On January 12, 2026, the Supreme Court dismissed criminal charges against Keshav Mahato under the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, establishing important safeguards against the misuse of the law. Four key legal principles were established here. The first was that mere presence does not automatically make you criminally liable. Just being at a place where someone else has committed a caste based offense doesn't make you guilty automatically. It does not establish mens rea. The accused must have committed a specific identifiable act under the criminal law. Each accused must be connected to the offense through direct evidence of their own conduct. Vague allegations like he was there are insufficient. The complaint must specify what exact words the accused spoke or what exact actions the accused performed, and whether he actually had the intent to humiliate based on caste and not some other reason. Using someone's caste name isn't automatically a crime. The prosecution must prove that you have used it deliberately to insult or humiliate them because of their caste. So basically, the Supreme Court held that merely abusing a member of the scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe would not be enough. There must be specific intent to humiliate because of the person's caste. The law protects SC/ST individuals from genuine atrocities, but criminal liability requires proof of actual participation with caste based intent, not mere presence or association. So here's where we are today in 2026. The good news is that you can't openly practice untouchability anymore. Those separate cups for lower caste and tea stops largely are gone. Dalit students can sit in any classroom, and we've had even a Dalit president, Dalit chief justices, and Dalit chief ministers. But the bad news is, according to the National Crime Records Bureau, over 50,000 cases of atrocities against SCs and STs are registered every year, and these are just the reported cases. And the conviction rate, well, they are just about 32%. That means that two-thirds of the accused walk free. And manual scavenging? It still exists. In 2018, the government admitted that there were 48,000 scavengers still working for it. People are still dying cleaning sewers with their bare hands in the 21st century. On average, one every 5 days. And it gets darker. The discrimination has gotten sneaky, but it still exists. Today, it looks like sorry, the flat is already rented. When people hear your surname, they separate the water bottles in offices for hygienic reasons. Dalits are still beaten up for sitting on horses or even keeping a mustache sometimes. They are also sometimes beaten up and even killed just because they are from the Dalit background. Matrimonial ads that scream caste no bar while still listing specific castes. Villages exist where Dalits still can't sit on chairs in upper caste homes. The law changed in 1950, but the society is still trying to catch up. That's how deeply the caste system is ingrained in our country. And here's what Article 17 really represents. It's not just a law, it's a promise. A promise that India made to its most oppressed citizens. We see you, we hear you, and we are going to fight for your dignity. Dr. Ambedkar once said something very powerful. Political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base of it social democracy. He meant that you can't have a free country if millions of people aren't free in their daily lives. Article 17 was supposed to be the foundation of that social democracy. Has it succeeded? Well, partially it has. The legal framework is very solid. The constitutional commitment is also unshakable. But laws alone don't change hearts. Laws alone can't change people's behaviors that have been ingrained for thousands of years. That is why, even 76 years after Article 17, we still have Dalit students facing discrimination in their schools and universities. We still have intercaste couples being murdered for dishonoring their families. And we still have humans doing the jobs that machines should do because of the caste that they were born into. The revolution that Article 17 started is unfinished. And here is the thing, it's not just up to the government or the courts, it's up to us. Every time that we check our own biases, and every time we call out casteist jokes, every time we refuse to ask what's your surname as a code for what's your caste, we are completing Article 17's promise. Because in the end, Dr. Ambedkar gave us the law, but we have to give it the life. If this video made you think, hit the like button and drop a comment if you have witnessed caste discrimination. Do you think Article 17 has succeeded or failed? Let's talk about it, because conversations change minds and minds change societies. Subscribe to Law Now and help me boost your legal IQ.